Okay, hello everybody. So I've got Matt Savage with me today from the Logo Emporium. Matt is a Sussex-based business owner, and he's going to be talking to us about his business and how he got started. So welcome to the call, Matt. Thank you for joining us. Do start by telling us what it is you do and why you do it.
Hi, Gavin. Hi, everybody. Yeah, so we are the Logo Emporium. We've been going for just over 5 years now, and we are printing and embroidery specialists. When we started, it was just the printing, embroidery and clothing, but as time's gone on and process demands have changed, we can now put logos on for people for not just their workwear, but also pens, hats, bags, water bottles, mugs, tape measures, pretty much anything you want your logo on. Now we can do it.
Fantastic. So what was it that got you interested in the embroidery and the logos in the first place?
When I left uni, excuse me, I went back to my old employers, and they were a sports shop, and they wanted to start up a teamwear division where they did all the sports kits in-house for the printing and embroidery. So I had previous sort of semi-experience in that, so I set that up for them. And then after about a year, one of their customers, a hockey brand, approached me and said, can I come work for them doing their teamwear in-house? I did that. So, and then after doing it twice for two other companies, I thought I've always wanted to start my own company and work for myself, so why not start it up my own business doing it? And that's where we are today.
That's interesting. So would it be fair to say you've had a mindset shift during that time? Because it sounds as when you started, you saw an opportunity to provide a service to other people. Would it be fair to say now you're looking at more as a business and something to grow for yourself? Tell us what how your thinking has changed over time as a business owner.
Yeah, I think, like I say, when you start off, when you're working for somebody doing it, you're very much sales and customer service orientated, and that's where my initial kind of foundation came in. And I like to think that we carry that now into what we do here, and then in between that, I picked up the skills of the machines, the processes, industry standards, what's good, what's bad, and things like that, to the point where now, yeah, that's all almost second nature, and you shift and learn things to promote and progress your business as you do through it. So you've got the initial foundation skills, which are really important, and then, yeah, you have to work and learn how to grow and run your own business after that, certainly.
So beyond learning the technical expertise that the job requires, what's been your biggest learning as a business owner, would you say, over the last few years?
Probably start off with that you have to do everything, and I think you go into it knowing that you're going to have to do everything. You're the marketing team, the finance team, the production team, the HR team. Yeah. But I think what I didn't quite realise at the start is how much was involved in each of those departments. So by learning and get to grips with it as early as possible, the better it is down the line. And don't go into it blinkered thinking you know everything, because you don't even scratch the surface of what you need to know on the finance side and the marketing side.
Yeah. No, I certainly recognise that, and I think that's very true for many people starting out in business. It's interesting to see how you progress, because I think a lot of people do get stuck in that sort of operational doing phase. Well, you've obviously got some interesting product lines and quite varied. So how would you describe your ideal customer?
Essentially, any business are great for us that want to have their own workwear that they supply to their workforce. We deal with one-man bands, people that are individual plumber or electrician, through to big Sussex companies that have 13, 14 stores employing hundreds of staff. So we don't have any minimum orders, so we work with one-man bands all up to big customers, but we also work with sports clubs and community organisations and charities and schools and people like that as well. Our market's pretty big, and we'd have to tailor each individual service and product to different markets. So So we're lucky in one sense that a lot of people need our service, but sometimes it can be tricky to nail down one marketing strategy.
I was going to say, actually, I was going to ask about that, because with a sort of portfolio that's so broad, you're going to presumably have different marketing objectives for different campaigns. So what is your sort of preferred method of marketing and finding your customers? If there is one, what would be your main approach?
For like you say, it differs between different markets, but for the business side of things, definitely networking events for us. I like to think that I get on well with a lot of people, strike up quite a good rapport with them, and people, when they're investing so much money perhaps in a workforce for even 10 guys, let alone 100 guys and girls, it can be quite daunting. So to be able to speak to somebody face to face and know that they can trust them, I think is big for people. So that definitely helps on the business side of things. And then when it comes to sports clubs, things like that, it's a bit more targeted, because you have to talk to perhaps the chairman of the sports club, or the kit man, or the chairman of the charity, or something like that. So you really have to, sometimes it is a shotgun method of just putting loads of stuff out there on Facebook, and sometimes you have to really sort of really focus on, you've got to know who you've got to speak to in that organisation, who's the decision maker, and also find them. So yeah, a lot of our time is spent on marketing in many different ways of different markets. It's not something we can quite easily get a template or formula and keep just churning through it to get new customers. We keep having to change what we're doing.
Yes, I understand that. And with networking, it's interesting you're talking about researching your market. With you doing so much networking, I presume you see some good networking and some bad networking. Do you find it's a science or an art? Is there a technique that works for you? You find you've developed it over time?
I just try to be as natural as possible and speak to people like you're speaking to the first time, but just be as kind of as real and as authentic as you can be. I see a lot of people come in and they'll literally shove a business card in everybody's hand and try and speak to everybody for 30 seconds, but really perhaps speaking to people and building that relationship over a longer period. Quite often we say to people, we don't expect you to come use us straight away, but just keep us in mind for when you need us. So yeah, you do see a lot of different strategies, but I think just trying to be as honest and as real as you can be just works with people the best when you're networking.
It can be a very highly effective strategy, but I think I heard someone say somewhere that you don't go to a networking meeting to buy, so why would you go to sell? So I totally understand the authenticity and building up of relationships. So thanks for sharing your insight on that. Okay, so I've got a question for you about how you started up your business. If you could go back 5 years, 6 years to the slightly younger version of yourself, Matt, what advice would you have for yourself today?
I just know I still had the same amount of hair when I started as now, so this hasn't occurred through stress or anything like that.
That's a good starting point. So don't worry, you're not going to lose any more hair, I guess, will be part of the advice.
No, that's it. I'd say record everything. I think, I know I was guilty of it, but I think a lot of people were so caught up in, right, I need to start this and I need this, and then perhaps the work does start to come in and then you get your head down and carry on and more work. But for what we do, obviously recording the items that people have and their logos, what they look like and positions, that's important. Also record the figures that you get in, because you might not think, I don't need that now, or that's irrelevant, I don't want to use my time doing that. But I found that 3 years down the line, when we wanted to figure out how many dance schools we do work for and if it's worth us investing more time targeting them, what percentage of our turnover is them, for instance, I didn't record those in the early days, so we don't have those figures to work that out. But I'd say from day one, just start recording information, because it's so vital. And I think we spoke about that thing of difference between data and information. It's important to not just record it but use it. And then on the flip side of that, perhaps you don't need to record everything. I'm probably guilty of recording too much that I don't need, but I think, well, perhaps it's better to have it than the year down the line we need it. But it's really, really valuable. And even building up databases and things like that, perhaps some people think that, oh, I don't need that. I'll get my customers this way, but having a database of previous customers is,
absolutely essential. I'm glad you raised that point. Absolutely essential to have a database of client prospects, client customers, and previous customers.
I think I saw a quote somewhere, and it was, the easiest next customer is a previous customer.
Yes,
or something like that.
Absolutely. And also, picking up on what you just said a few minutes ago, you can improve what you measure. So that's why it is so important to have that measurement, because then you can target what you want to improve. Well, Matt, I've seen some of the work that you've done. I've benefited from it personally, and I think you do a remarkable job, and you've got a really interesting business there. So I wish you the best for the future, and thank you for joining us today and sharing your thoughts with us.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.